So shout out the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're there all 3 days. Your observations. What did you take away from week 1 of organized team activities?
Yeah, and I want to be careful with this because, it's football in shorts. It's not
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
anything definitive at all, but I was a little bit more impressed with the Steelers' depth than I think I was going into the week. I think particularly at corner, at receiver, there were and receiver too. There were a couple guys who stood out in ways that I'm like, oh, that's like not someone that I expected to really be impressive at all. It wasn't someone I expected to contribute at all. But I think they've got a little bit better depth than I thought they did have. I think I've spent the offseason kind of thinking, okay, they still need one more guy here. They still need one more guy here. But they, at receiver and corner, I think there are a couple guys who are really stepping up in big ways and making some plays that, Darius Rush comes to mind, Quez Watkins comes to mind, Scotty Miller as well. Those are guys who I thought had pretty good weeks. And, obviously football and shorts and everything like that. But I think that there's a little bit more there than I had given the Steelers credit for. And I don't think some of these moves that we've been talking about throughout the offseason are as immediately pressing as maybe I thought they were. I don't think, if they played a game tomorrow, I wouldn't be as concerned about, the pass catchers or the defensive secondary as I was, maybe a week ago or 2 weeks ago or earlier this offseason. I think there's something there. And I want to see these guys put on pads. I want to see them actually be able to compete. But I've been pretty impressed with how these other guys, quote unquote, other guys are stepping up and making some plays.
So I agree with you with the corners. I think Darius Rush looks real good. I think Corey Trice gives me a lot of hope. Like I'm at a point where instead of going and signing a Patrick Peterson or a Cam Sutton or something right now, just see what you have in these guys, because I think that they've shown. I mean, Darius Rush might have been like the star of the week right now. He's coming up with play after play seemingly every day, which, I mean, that's awesome. That's a 5th-round pick a year ago who's bounced around the NFL already in 1 year in the league, showed up here, played, I think it was like 30 snaps his first game, and then maybe played like 15 the rest of the way. So hopefully he's a guy that takes a step forward. I'm really high on Darius Rush, and I think right now I feel much better about the cornerback room than I did a week ago. I think that there's an argument to be made of giving these guys an opportunity before you go and get a veteran and waste an opportunity on some second-year guys, where I wasn't super high on give a 5th round or a 7th-round pick a chance in his second year. I don't know how strong I was on that. I feel good about those. I think I disagree with you with the wide receivers, though. I think I'm more concerned today about guys like Van Jefferson than I was a week ago. While, Quez Watkins looks pretty okay at times, and I think honestly, I think Marquez Callaway is one of the more impressive names in that group. Van Jefferson, I think, has not looked very good to me. And Roman Wilson, I don't think is ready to, at least right now. It's a week in, and there's a long way to go. You got to put pads on. But I think right now, if you're banking on Roman Wilson being a number 2, I'm not super high on that. And I don't think the Steelers, like, there's been a couple of times where I'm watching him pass and I'm going, okay, like if that was George Pickens, would he have come down from that catch between him, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and Joey Porter Jr., or is that just a lost cause because, it was Van Jefferson or it was Scotty Miller or it was whoever? I am a little worried about the wide receivers. I'm not as sold maybe as you are, but at the same time, maybe it's good that we have 2 different opinions there.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's fair about Roman, and I think that's fair about Van Jefferson. I think Roman, I wouldn't say I'm concerned, but what we saw was what we saw. I mean, I think the fact that he's only, I don't think he might be listed at 6 foot. I don't think he's actually 6 foot. And I think his lack of size kind of showed up a little bit, especially when he was facing guys like Joey Porter when they tried to bump him outside. Roman, I think, has a long way to go. So I think that's a little concerning. I think I'll stand by my comment that I think the depth is better than I expected, but I think you're right. I think this is all kind of predicated on Roman being a wide receiver too, right?
Yes.
Like this all only really works if Roman's able to be that guy, and so far he hasn't looked like that guy. That comes with all the caveats of that we've talked about of, it's week 1, it's this guy's first real practices as an NFL player. Like he's got a long way to go, but there's also a lot of time for him to work on these things. So, I wouldn't say I'm concerned just yet, but again, if they had to play a game tomorrow, like Would Roman Wilson be in the starting lineup? Probably not, like he's probably not seeing the field very much at all. So I think that's concerning, but I don't think you're wrong there. I think this wide receiver group does have a ways to go, even if I was impressed with maybe some of those guys out there.
Yeah, I think that lower in the depth chart, like me and Nick were talking yesterday, it's more of you need another guy. Like it doesn't have to be, you need somebody with more potential. Like it doesn't have to be a Brandon Ayuk. It doesn't have to be a Deebo Samuel. You just need somebody who could become something bigger than what maybe Scotty Miller or Van Jefferson could become. Because I think that they're like, what you're getting out of those guys. And even if it's, a reliable set of hands and 250 to 300 yards in a season, okay, like every roster has those guys. They're good to have on the roster. And some rosters don't have those guys, and it's concerning. You need where the drop off is most significant is George Pickens to the rest of the group. So that's where you need to at least have more potential. And I think there's names out there, like you toss John Mechie out there, you toss Juwan Jennings out there, like names that probably have more upside than what the Steelers have right now that would probably fill that role. At the same time, I'm very impressed with Calvin Austin. Like I think Calvin Austin, I think he's put in the work. He looks a little bit bigger, just like stocky wise. His speed is still certainly there. I just kind of feel like in year 3, he looks more fluid, I guess would be the word, more confident out there. Like I felt like year 2 last year, it still felt like he was a rookie. This year, it's like, Calvin Austin's, you could tell that his cuts are a lot sharper. You could tell that his agility is a lot stronger. Like there's just parts of Calvin Austin's game that I'm not ready to say he's ready to be a starter. I'm just saying that, for a guy that I think has a ton of potential, this is the first time that I'm like seeing that potential and kind of thinking that he might be able to grow with it.
Yeah, and I agree on Calvin. I think he's made some pretty significant improvements, and I think you can see them. This is a guy who didn't play at all during his rookie season. Like you got to take that into account. Like last year was basically his rookie year. We talk about it being in year 3. This is basically year 2 for him. And I think he's kind of shown that he's shown a little bit that he's ready to not be as much of a gadget guy anymore, that he is a full-blooded wide receiver, that he can do all these things, that he's not just, a gadget guy running jet sweeps and returning punts. He can actually be a real receiver catching passes. He has a more developed route tree, things like that. And that, even if he's a little shorter, that he can stick on the field for a while. He can be a 3-down player. I think he's still got, I want to see him do it in pads. I want to see him do it in live opportunities, obviously. But I think he certainly has taken a step forward, and that should give you some confidence as well.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so my big takeaways are Najee Harris, I think, is a big one. Slimming down. I don't know how many pounds he's down, but I'm excited to see what a skinnier Najee Harris could look like. Also, I think Pat Freiermuth has really looks good. It's only been 3 days and it's only pads, but it's more so. It kind of feels like a very vanilla version of Arthur Smith's offense, that's all this is. This is as vanilla as it gets. This is the install plays. This is the, 90%. Half of this team isn't going to be here in August. So let's not give all of our secrets away between now and June 14th or 13th or whatever. I think that the vanilla version of Arthur Smith's offense includes a lot of Pat Freiermuth. And I think that is impressive. And Najee hasn't done almost anything, but he's still got a pep in his step. He's a guy that, I don't know, like I watch him and I want to talk to him because I don't know how to word this question when we do, but I want to hear him because in my words, in my head, it's Najee Harris is always a dude that's active on the field. That's, always kind of has some energy and some flow to him. He's always a leader when he's actually going through these drills. This year kind of feels like he's like, he's got some enthusiasm, and he's always got enthusiasm, but it's like almost more. It's just a stronger vibe. So I want to hear what his, outlook on the season is, what his outlook on, earning another payday is, that kind of stuff. But Najee Harris and Pat Freiermuth, I would think, are my 2 biggest observations. And then obviously, Joey Porter Jr. bulking up, which did not need to happen and just looks sharper, is obviously impressive.
Yeah, I think Najee is really interesting because it's a guy who the definition of his game was bruising running back, run with a lot of power, run right through people's faces. And I think this year is going to be a little different because the offensive line improvements, I'm not expecting him to get, hit at the line of scrimmage on every run that he's he's taking every time that he's carrying the ball, I think he's going to have a little bit more room to run. And for a guy who I think people really forget that Najee had a ton of explosive runs last year. Like he was
Yeah.
not the running back that I think exists in everyone's mind. He was breaking off big 20-yard runs. He was much more explosive than people give him credit for. And to see him maybe get some more room to run and use that speed with a slim down body and maybe adding a bit more speed to that, I'm really excited to see what he can do. I think Najee is determined. I think he did, whether or not he asked for them to decline his 5th-year option or not, who knows what the real story is there. But I think he's pissed off either way. Like I think he sees what the market is for running backs, and I think he is really, really eager to prove his value. Not that, I mean, in my mind, I think he already has. To a lot of other people, he hasn't, and you can see kind of the determination on Najee's face. You can see the focus. You can see that he's pretty locked in my mind, and I think he's the improvements he's made to his body are reflective of that as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he's like, I'm excited to see what Naji Harris brings. I don't know how much I believe the Steelers declined his 5th-year option because they're, just want to see how he fits in Arthur Smith's offense and then they'll extend him. I think he's got an opportunity to say, hey, look, you should have did that. You should have picked up the 5th-year option. And I think that that's exciting to go. I also think it's hilarious how we're 4 years into Najee Harris's career, and every single offseason we're talking about how his body looks different and impressive in one way or another. And this year it was dropping down. But people have pointed out, like, Le'Veon Bell dropped 20 pounds his 2nd year in the NFL and was super impressive. You've had guys lose weight or slim down who are these bruising running backs who became more versatile and kind of, saw some improvements because of it. I don't think Najee Harris necessarily needs a ton of improvement. I think he's an impressive running back, but I am excited to see what just like a slimmer Najee looks like. And I think that's super impressive.